So today we celebrate the 11th Sunday in Ordinary Time. And the question that came to me as I was beginning to prepare for this weekend is, what does it mean, the 11th Sunday, or any Sunday really, in Ordinary Time? The first thing I'm sure you all noticed is that there are certain changes. Father Joe and I are wearing green vestments today, instead of the white or red that you've seen for the past many weeks. And so there has to be something different about this time of year. But when we say ordinary time, does it mean that there's nothing special about this Sunday or any other Sunday? Well, I don't think it can be that, because every time we gather, especially when we gather to celebrate the Eucharist, it is most certainly a special time. And then I thought, well, does it mean it is just a common day, a day like every other day? And I don't think it can mean that either. After all, today is the day that God set aside for a Sabbath, not for himself, but for us, a day of rest. So why do we call it the 11th Sunday in Ordinary Time? Well, it's really quite simple. Because when we hear the word ordinary in describing which Sunday we are, it's not being used in the way we often mean ordinary when we use the word. It doesn't mean usual or normal, standard, or any of the other things that come to mind when we hear ordinary. Ordinary Sundays, or actually all of ordinary time, is the part of the liturgical year outside of the two major seasons of Eastertide and Christmastide. We refer to this part of the year as ordinary time, or what might more appropriately be called ordinal time, because it's the time of year when we are counting the weeks to keep track of where we are. So today, after Lent and Easter, and the 3 Sundays of feast days, Pentecost, Most Holy Trinity, and Most Holy Body and Blood of Christ, we return to ordinary time. We return to that time of year when, as Maya Angelou recently said it, this is a wonderful day. I've never seen it before. And so we return to that time of year when we look at our lives and realize that it is pretty remarkable that we rise each day and have everything we need. We're actually in the time of year when we have the opportunity to grow deeper in our faith, to learn more about it, to grow closer to God, and closer to living the model that Christ gave us to live by. And it's in today's passage from Mark's Gospel that Jesus gets right to that teaching about faith, teaching about how we live our lives. But he does it with a parable. He does it with a short, simple story. And why did Jesus use parables? Well, we know that Jesus was Jewish. And the Jewish people have historically used parables in their teaching. So it was only very natural for Jesus to use one as well. But more importantly, parables work. Parables communicate to the community in a way that they can understand. They communicate in a way that hopefully helps people to think and grow deeper into what's being said. In other words, Jesus used parables, or short, simple stories, that most everyone would understand, and through that, reflect on how they live their lives. So what should we be hearing in today's parable? Well, for me, it was pretty simple. What an amazing place the kingdom of God must be. I mean, in the kingdom, we will sleep, the seeds will sprout and grow, the harvest will come, without us ever really knowing how. Now, please don't misunderstand. I know people that work in the agricultural industry work hard. And it doesn't happen by accident that we have the food that we have to eat. But in the kingdom, God will provide. And we won't have to do that work. The other thing that I think we should be getting out of the parable this morning is just how important everything is to God. Even the smallest of things that any of us can think of are important to God. A mustard seed, and I did a little research on this. It's tiny. It may not be the smallest thing that we've found in the past 2,000 years, but it is a tiny seed. And if even that tiny little seed is important to God, how important must we be to him? I mean, after all, we were created in his image. So knowing that God has made a place for us where all of our needs will be met, and even those things that we might deem to be insignificant or important to God, I couldn't help but think, does my life reflect that I know how important I am to God? Do I show others that I'm living a life as close to living the model that Christ gave me as I possibly can? And then back to the Maya Angelou quote, do I realize that every day is special because it is new? And so as you go through this week, think about all those things. Think about how important you must be to God. Think about the life that you live, and through that life, do you show everyone how important you are to God?